and fast-moving cars, Catherine, frighten and confuse me. But how are you doing, my friend?
I'm great. How are you, David?
I'm great. You know what? You know why I'm just walking on sunshine? And it is a humidex of plus 44 today in the GTA. So I don't know about you, Catherine. I'm quite a sweaty Betty. There's something about the male and female thermostat, folks, I got to tell you. But we hosted the showing of the Trucker Rebellion video, and Lord Black gave a history of civil liberties in Canada at the Carlew venue. What a beautiful venue.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's Art Deco or Art Modern. Not that I'm an expert in. Is that, you think so?
Oh, no, Deco.
Well,
Deco.
I think it was built in 31.
By a French architect.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think it's Nouveau.
And it went on for decades, and I think in the mid-70s, this gorgeous venue was shuttered up, if you can believe it. And then in the early 2000s, it was restored to its former glory. And you can almost imagine sort of a roaring 20s gala happening there, even though
did you ride the elevators? You can definitely imagine the 20s.
I'm surprised there wasn't somebody in a pillbox hat, operating it. But, what I loved about it, Catherine, I mean, we sometimes go and we cover hostile events, whether it's Antifa or leftist politicians, and really, what's the difference? Can you tell the difference? And to meet so many of our supporters, of our fans, and they're so wonderful with the kind words they tell us, it never gets old. So I am just so delighted, and what a great flick.
I hadn't seen it before. Had you?
Hadn't seen it on the big screen, that's for sure, and I loved it.
Yeah,
and so
it was great. Big
shout out to Key and Simone, K2, Sydney Fazard, and of course Mocha. They put together a wonderful job. So, speaking of jobs, what is the ostensible policy reason of what we're trying to do here today?
Well, David, the Rebel News live stream is Rebels reacting to the daily news, and we do it Monday through Friday at 12 Eastern. So we are live right now on YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey, Super U, and Getter. But at some point, if things get too spicy, we might have to say goodbye to our friends on YouTube. So I suggest you watch on one of the other platforms. Rumble is probably the most popular way to watch. But that's pretty much it, right?
And if and also if any of our subjects folks gets close to any forbidden topics, that would be a contrarian viewpoint of the coronavirus. That would be doubting the results of the election in the U.S. Oh, not the 2016 election. That's okay. Yeah. Doubt away. Yeah. But the 2021, then we have to bid adieu to YouTube, the censorious thugs of Silicon Valley. They're not really all about free speech anymore. So I don't know if we have something that we have.
One more thing, though.
Yes.
If you want to interact with David and I, which of course you do, you can send chats. There you go. There we are. We have it. Send a rant on Rumble or I think we have YouTube chats as well, and they all have their own little chat platforms. You can donate as little as $1, and we'll read your comment on live air. And we love to talk about Star Trek. So.
Oh, we do? Okay.
We do.
I should have brushed up on my trivia, though. But in the meantime, set your phasers on fun. See what I did there?
Yes, I did, David.
Barry Horowitz, pat on the back. Okay. Well, you know what? The top news item, folks, is this unbelievable story coming out of the public inquiry regarding that massacre in Nova Scotia going back to April 2020. And, it's kind of amazing. I thought that would... I get the Toronto Sun, and I thought that would be the front page news. There's a little banner about it, but it's Austin Matthews winning the NHL's MVP award. Tell me, does Austin Matthews look like a young version of Ron Jeremy to you? That's...
I don't know who that is, David.
Okay then.
No.
Perish the thought. But nevertheless,
no,
folks...
that's a good point. Maybe there should have been something about this massive story on the front page of the Toronto Sun.
Because it is a scandal, and it involves some of the top people in Canada, namely the Prime Minister, the Commissioner of the RCMP, Brenda Lucki, the then Public Safety Minister, Bill Blair. Now, of course, it is Marco Mendicino.
He's doing a fantastic job.
Oh yeah, if he's doing a fantastic job, if the job was auditioning for the role of Pinocchio, the title character, I mean that guy, I don't even think he can spell the truth. But what this investigation revealed in testimony from RCMP Superintendent Darren Campbell and the RCMP Director of Communications Leah Scanlon is that in a meeting on April 28th, which was 1 week after the massacre, this is 2020 again, folks, Lucky was upset that those leading the investigation had not released the type of firearms that the killer had used. And what the two RCMP officers testified was that doing so would compromise the investigation. It's not done.
And it was, like you said, it was a week after the massacre.
That's right. So they're still piecing everything together.
Very fresh, yeah.
So why would Bill Blair and Brenda Lucki and Prime Minister Trudeau be so adamant on finding out what type of guns were being used or were used in the massacre? And Catherine, the reason is this was all politically motivated. We know one of the guns he used was an AR-15, which the Liberals were effectively banning along with 1,500 other types of firearms.
Style.
Exactly,
Yeah.
assault style.
Yeah.
If it looks like a black military rifle, that's bad, but the identical rifle in terms of the magazine, the capacity, everything else. If it's got a wooden stock, that's a kinder, gentler, friendlier rifle, even though they're exactly the same thing. And it was completely politically motivated. It was along the lines, Catherine, of the government saying, you see, this is why we have to clamp down on the rights of legal firearms owners. Here's the thing, the killer who used that rifle, Catherine, he was not a legal firearms owner.
Yep.
That was an illegal AR-15 that he had smuggled from the United States. And as a matter of fact, folks, he was already banned from owning any guns. He was on a bit of a watch list because of erratic behavior in the past, and shouted out for for odd behavior, like I said. Anyways, I think the story here, Catherine, is the lengths the Trudeau Liberals would go to, as well as, and I think this is the most shocking thing, is Commissioner Lucki being a willing accomplice, being a useful idiot to compromise an investigation into a horrific massacre just so they can play the, Captain Trudeau is here to save Canada and Canadians by firearms banning. What do you make of this?
Well, I mean, we've been talking about this for a while, ever since the horrible tragedy in Uvalde. And I mean, in the States, it is a little bit different because it is like, we know that the shooter there purchased that gun legally. So there is an argument for, like, it's a big, complicated issue. There is an argument for, like, how do we prevent people from buying legal guns there? But in this case, in Canada, we know it's super hard to get a legal gun. Yeah. And when you do, your magazine capacity is only 15 rounds tops, I think.
I'm not a firearm expert.
I'm pretty sure. I'm working on my gun license, so I'm pretty sure.
Oh, you are working on a gun license.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Maybe you might not mention that. Maybe the government's going to wiretap your phone now as an act of vengeance against a rebel reporter. That's what they did to Rob Stocky, the ex-cop in Ottawa, just for attending a freedom rally.
Just kidding, I'm not.
Maybe we should,
but we know
Catherine
how hard
misspoke.
it is to get a gun in Canada, and it should be, in my opinion. I think you should have to go through training, and you should have references and all sorts of, maybe references would have stopped the Uvalde shooter from getting a gun. I don't know.
Well, I don't think that's the issue here, Catherine. I think,
not here, no.
No,
Yeah.
I think it's the idea that a prime minister, a public safety officer, that the boss of these two RCMP officers, Campbell and Scanlon, actually interfered during an active investigation for no other purpose than to further their political agenda. I think this is one of the biggest scandals, and that's saying a lot.
Yeah, I was going to say, what does that even mean these days?
In the last 7 years of the Trudeau Liberals. Here's my question, Catherine. Is this Prime Minister, is this government, is this RCMP committee, are they going to skate on this yet again?
Yes, absolutely.
Isn't it unbelievable?
Yeah.
What do we have to do? What do we have to report to pierce the Teflon on this guy? And I know, here's my, I haven't scanned the media coverage on MASH yet, Catherine, but here's my thinking in terms of how it's going to be spun by the likes of, the Star and all the others that we contribute our tax dollars to do journalism because they can't make money with what they're selling right now. And it's going to be this. Well, yeah, it's kind of, iffy that they interfered in a active investigation, but the intentions were there. We got to ban these evil guns. We got to take those terrible rifles and AR-15s out of the Dominion. So maybe they didn't behave in terms of proper protocol, but the end result, the hope for end result, was good. I think that's how they're going to spin it because the liberal newspapers are so anti-gun, and it doesn't matter if you are a law-abiding duck hunter in Saskatchewan. You just say gun. You just put up an image of a gun, and guns are bad, and they must be banned. Of course, I do believe Justin Trudeau's private security detail.
Oh, yeah.
They carry guns.
Oh, of course
right?
they do.
Yes.
And I was reading one of the articles, and it said that a week after the rampage, Trudeau said that the RCMP is systemically racist. So,
oh my.
So according to the Prime Minister, you shouldn't have a gun, but the systemically racist RCMP should. What kind of logic is that? We hear this all the time in the States, but to hear it from the Prime Minister himself.
Yes. Well, I think that's going to be a hard sell because if memory serves, the killer was white, and I believe the officers who eventually took him down were also of the same race, but I'm sure there's a bit of racism lurking there. I mean, I don't have anything.
It's
but
it's just, they say it. It's like saying someone's a transphobe, someone's a racist. It's like such an easy way to just paint someone as evil without needing any proof, because most people will hear that and then just go, yup.
Well, I will say this, Catherine. I think the RCMP as a law enforcement agency is in complete disarray. I'm not targeting all members of the RCMP. In fact, in Ottawa, during the trucker convoy, I met someone, Catherine, at a restaurant. He came up to me. He was off-duty RCMP, and he said to me, "What happened to me in December? Remember with the RCMP officers on Trudeau's security
Assaulting
detail?
you,
Beating me up. He had never felt more shame being an RCMP officer than seeing that video footage. So there are good Mounties out there. Yeah, we're not painting them all with the same brush, and I really appreciated his heartfelt words. But in general, I'm having severe doubts about the effectiveness of this police agency because it is so obviously politicized.
And you can almost, it's hard to blame the individuals if the organization is corrupt, and like people work paycheck to paycheck these days, and it's hard to blame people when they're like, well, I'm getting an order. If I go against that order, I'm going to be fired. I have a family to feed. Like, it's when your boss is telling you to do something you don't want to do, you have to stand up and say no, and you have to take the risk of walking away from a job. And a lot of people can't afford to do that. And I feel for the RCMP, but at the same time, there's so many of them that could maybe, I don't know how it works. I don't know what it would take for the organization to uncorrupt itself.
It would mean a complete change in the culture, because my experience, folks, is that when you look at a police division that has more than the statistical number of bad apples that it should have, it really is that there is a rotten culture at play, and you have to go from the head of the fish down. You have to get rid of the leaders and bring in new leadership. And on that note, and you mentioned firing, Catherine, I'm sorry. I think Brenda Lucki, Bill Blair, and Prime Minister Trudeau have to step down. This is how serious this is. Interfering in an active police investigation, and good for Superintendent Campbell and for Scanlon of the RCMP for standing up to their boss, right? Because that could be a very career-limiting move. I mean, imagine you're in the rank and file of the RCMP, Catherine, and no lower authority than Brenda Lucki is saying, give me this information. Like you said, you've got bills to pay. Do you want to be, do you want to be demoted? Do you want to be fired on trumped-up charges? And I wouldn't put it past these cats, folks. I wouldn't put it past it. Of course, Blair, I heard him speaking on the radio into headquarters. He's denying any kind of coercion. Do you believe that?
Oh, I'm shocked. I'm shocked, David.
Yeah. No, but I mean, I guess Blair is now taking a page from his replacement at Public Safety, Marco Mendicino, which is to lie, or default to the Sergeant Schultz routine. I know nothing. I saw nothing. All right. But I would really like to hear where our viewers stand on this. This, like I said, is a major scandal. It is such inappropriate behavior. The idea of the politicians and a politicized RCMP commissioner actually tinkering with an active investigation to pursue some bogus political agenda in terms of the vilification and demonization of legal gun owners.
Legal gun owners, and that's the huge caveat there. Like, this murderer was not a legal gun owner.
That's right.
According to the law, he shouldn't have been anywhere near a weapon, and yet, he did. He had hate in his heart, and he went on a rampage, and the law wasn't going to stop him.
And with the Trudeau Liberals, Catherine, these details, which are very important details, i.e. illegal gun, i.e. the guy couldn't own any guns because he was on a watch list, that will go amiss, right?
Well, I had to look into it myself because I was reading all these articles about it for a couple weeks ago for some other thing, and I was like, wait, was this a legal gun? I couldn't find it, so I went to Wikipedia, of all places, and it said he did not have a PAL, possession and acquisition license, and I was like, that's the detail I haven't seen in any of these news stories. Kind of important.
Yeah, 100%, and although I would caution you in terms of buying everything at face value from Wikipedia.
Well, it was the only, it seems to be the only place I could find that little tidbit.
There you go. So in the days ahead, I think collectively what we should all do is watch the media coverage of this, watch the spin, watch the justification, because when I came across this story, holy smokes, my eyes popped out of my head like that wolf in the Tex Avery cartoon, But we shall move on, and we have a full list, if I can find it. What tickles your fancy on National Kissing Day, Catherine? Oh, by the way, I should say, National Kissing Day, which is today, should not be...
actually?
It is.
Okay.
I don't make any of this up. How
could
I? No. It shouldn't be confused with International Kissing Day. That's July 6th.
You know a lot about kissing Day.
Yeah. Well, hope abounds, right? And please make a note of this. January 12th, that's National or International Kiss a Ginger Day. So, write that date down.
I will.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh,
you see. Thank you, super producer Olivia,
there's a deadly virus going around.
That's right, which is why I kissed my dog, Sir Gregor, today. Bit of a same-sex kiss, but I think I can get away with it. Lady Manzoid was not in the mood as usual. Anyway, but that's enough about kissing. What would you like to get to?
There's an interesting story about the government. It's from the National Post. I have it written here. So the National Post, government should take fight against ideological extremism online, House Committee report says.
Yeah, and once again, the crux of the matter is this, Catherine. Define ideological extremism.
Well, they do, and it's quite interesting.
Well, but, and one of those definitions, I'm sure, applies to law-abiding Canadians who were part of the trucker convoys in Ottawa. That was the biggest one, of course. Windsor, Coots. And by the way, folks, if you haven't checked out Trucker Rebellion done by our colleagues, please do check it out. These were people that were having their livelihoods quashed. These were people that were being put out of business by some ludicrous Trudeau mandate that you got to get jabbed if you're going to be a trucker crossing international borders, or you're going to have to quarantine for 14 or 15 days. That's really going to work when you're in the trucking business.
When you're in a cab alone the entire trip.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you're, not dealing with it. It's just absolutely. But that is the problem. These truckers, these are salt of the earth Canadians and their allies and supporters. I mean, Rex Murphy at an event last week, he said it best. He goes, I can't remember any rebellion or revolution in world history that involved hot tubs and bouncy castles.
Not a single death.
And exactly.
Or injury, I'm pretty sure.
And I still see people on the left and the media referring to what happened in Ottawa as an occupation.
And as insurrection.
Insurrection.
Borrowing
some terminology from January 6th south of the border.
It's traumatizing, you guys.
Yeah.
So this article opens with recommendations from the report include targeting digital platforms, online bots, algorithms, crowdfunding, and cryptocurrency in addition to offline measures. So basically GoFundMe, which funded the truckers, which was shut down. So crowdfunding is highlighted there. And they also bring up like different types of hate groups, which would be subcategories of xenophobic, gender-driven, anti-authority, and other personal grievance-driven violence. So I just find it funny that they just throw anti-authority in there, because if you are critical of the government, you're basically a terrorist. And that is like, where are we, North Korea? Like, that is crazy. Like, violence and being anti-authority are not the same thing.
100%. I mean, and I think as journalists, one of our bailiwicks, Catherine, is to be the umpire looking at the behavior of government.
Yeah.
I mean, this idea of the government saying what you can and cannot say in the public square or the digital public square is outrageous. That's the very reason there is a First Amendment in the United States, so that you can criticize the government without fear of the government putting you in jail for the criticism.
Yeah, I don't think we have that right here in Canada.
No, we definitely don't. And
people get that confused a lot. Like at these lockdown protests that we would cover, a lot of people said, well, it's my freedom of speech. It's like, you don't actually have that freedom in Canada, unfortunately, which is terrifying.
Well, it's being more and more compromised. It's kind of funny, this being the 40th anniversary of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms that was brought in by Pierre Elliott Trudeau, Justin's father, only to see Justin basically put that through the paper shredder. But, here's the thing. These authorities that seem to think, and I'm talking about politicians, I'm talking about bureaucrats, chief medical health officers, you name it. They seem to think they're beyond any kind of public criticism, Catherine. And yet the criticism, what Jagmeet Singh said about the trucker convoy in Ottawa, that it was comprised of white supremacists and they had an Islamophobic agenda. Also, the Prime Minister came out with homophobic, misogyny.
Anti-science.
I'm Clara Peller here right now, folks, the Wendy spokeswoman from the 80s. In the restaurant going, where's the beef? Right. I am astonished they could get away with this when there's no evidence, Catherine, to support this.
Well, they just keep throwing those isms out. Islamophobic, racist, which is not an ism, but it kind of is, and anti-science. And it's like you just throw whatever on the wall and hope something sticks.
Yep.
And a lot of it sticks.
And, for Jagmeet Singh, I mean, I'm sorry, Mr. Singh, but there were Sikh individuals at these protests, including a wonderful Sikh gentleman during the dying day of the rebellion, which I was there in Ottawa covering, and it was like minus 30 gazillion below zero.
So cold.
Oh, and he gave me, I guess he saw me shivering, but he gave me hand warmers. But there were a group of Sikhs I was next to, so it's pretty hard to sell to me that people of brown skin wearing a turban and are of the Sikh faith are white supremacists.
Yeah, waving Canadian flags who just want to feed their families.
Yeah.
It's a tough sell, but people buy it. It's shocking to me. I was on Twitter the other day looking at some article about the convoy. I think it's about the Emergencies Act inquiry. And so many people are like, they call it the freedom convoy, because freedom wanting freedom makes you racist and stupid, apparently. Like if their freedom was infringed, they would care, but it's like they don't.
You know, Catherine, you raise a good point here, because I am of the opinion that on the left, these progressives, actually, let's call them for what they are, Marxists. Freedom is the new F word, right?
It is.
And and I'll tell you what a symbol of that is. Right now, go out, beautiful sunny day in the GTA, go outside to a park, go to a shopping mall, anywhere. You will still see people who look to me to be young and healthy. And what are they wearing? They're still wearing the mask. They still got the face diaper on, even though in Ontario, that has been eradicated since March 21st. I don't think this is about protecting one from a virus anymore, Catherine.
No, David.
I think this is a statement, much like a Muslim woman wearing a hijab, a Christian wearing a cross, a Sikh wearing a turban. This is a statement saying, I support big government, I support big lockdowns, I support big tech, I support big censorship.
Big
I'm
pharma.
telling you, what's happened to the world in just half a century, which is a blink of geological, a blink of an eyelash when it comes to geological time for sure. When you had young people on campus in the late 60s, early 70s, what were they campaigning for? They were
speech.
protesting the Vietnam War. Yeah. They were all about civil rights. And now these indoctrinated young people are all about, big government, big tech, big censorship. It's for our own good, I've been told, and that's good enough for me. You're younger than me, Catherine. A lot. What do you make of this? Because I see it, this seems to be something that is so tied to the millennial generation. I know it's easy to mock and criticize that generation. But
it's for a reason. I remember I think it was 2016 in Berkeley, California, at Berkeley University, there were riots because I think it was Ben Shapiro who was supposed to speak there.
Yeah.
And these anarchists were rioting free speech. Yep. And it's Berkeley is where the free speech movement happened in the 60s that you just mentioned, the anti-Vietnam War, free speech, civil rights. And it's just so funny. Like the fact that the whole dichotomy has completely flipped on its head. And I mean, that's kind of what brought me personally to Christianity, because I've always been like a bit of a rebel, but when I saw what they were doing to pastors and how everyone was so indoctrinated, I was like, these pastors, like Pastor Hildebrandt, who I met and interviewed, he's so badass. He was like rock and roll.
Oh, I love that guy.
He's such a
That's
badass
Church
guy.
of God in Elmer, Ontario.
Yes, Elmer,
yep.
yeah. And I was like, and I said to him, like, you guys are the new rock stars. Like, you guys are so anti-big government and so pro free speech and love and peace and all the things that conservative Christians are supposed to be against. That if you just Googled what are right-wing conservatives against, they would say, oh, they're against life and love and freedom. But it's like nowadays it's the complete opposite. It's like I'm like a hippie.
Yeah. No, I think the radical, the cool kid on campus is the conservative.
Yeah.
Is the right-leaning kid, because I say that because I think I'm going by memory, so don't quote me, but it was around 2018. It was certainly pre-pandemic. And one of the most shocking surveys I'd ever seen, Catherine, it was south of the border, where they went to U.S. universities and colleges and asked the student body there that, of course, the First Amendment protects freedom of speech. But if your speech is hurtful, and that was the word, not libelous, not defamatory, not hate speech, but it's just hurtful to others, should the First Amendment be repealed? And folks, 51% of Americans and American campuses said yes. That's terrifying to me.
Because these people think words are violence.
Yes.
And they're not. That's the beauty of it. They're literally not. Like, if I was to say, this is David Menzies' address, we are going at this date to go kill him. Like, that's violence. Those are words, but that's an active call for violence. That's already illegal. You cannot do that.
Exactly.
That's doxing. That's invading someone's privacy. That's calling for violence. Like, that's already illegal. But anything short of that, if I just said, I hate David Menzies, that's not like,
that's
which
okay.
I don't, which I do not. I love David Menzies. But I'm just saying, like,
National Kissing Day.
But it's like people now equate the two as if they're the same thing. And it's like, no, you should be allowed. And I think you should be. And it goes to, this article about the government fighting against ideological extremism. I think if someone, even as horrible as like a legitimate Nazi,
Yep.
An actual Nazi, I think they should be allowed to say whatever they want, because then at least we know who these people are. They're outing themselves. But if you force them off the internet, then they're just going to be underground on the dark web or in person having these meetings. It's like, wouldn't you rather know who these people are, what their ideas are, so that we can fight them in the online space, like ideologically? But you're pushing these people underground, and it's making them more extreme, more hateful. It makes no sense to me.
I agree with you entirely. And you mentioned Nancy. I mean, we had an infamous neo-Nazi in Toronto, Ernest Zundel, in the 80s. Eventually, I think he was deported back to his original country of Germany. But I thought it was a huge misstep in how we went after Ernest Zundel. Ernest Zundel was a Holocaust denier. That makes him a son of a bitch, in my viewpoint. It's gross, it's repugnant, it's odious. Say what you will. But the thing about Ernest Zundel, folks, is he did not cross the line when it comes to free speech. I'm pretty much a free speech absolutist, but as Catherine alluded to, if you were going to preach harm or death to a individual or a group of people, that's offside. Mm-hmm. That's against law. That's the thing about Ernest Zundel. He never said, hey, go out and kill a Jew. He never said that. So there was two things about what happened with Ernest Zundel. The amount of publicity, because he was front page news. Ernest Zundel couldn't be happier. He was getting tens and tens of millions of dollars by the state in the pre-internet days, giving him a stage to preach his odious garbage. And he made a mockery of the court process. There was this famous photo. It's him going to court, and he's actually dragging a life-size cross, right? As though he's a Jesus figure. It was absolutely preposterous, but Zundel couldn't be happier that he was being targeted for his views. Listen, if I were to deny the Titanic, the sinking of the Titanic, the existence of Napoleon, should I be prosecuted, right? And that was there you go. Look at that. Can you imagine? And there's his useful idiots wearing construction helmets, hard hats, Catherine, for good reason. There were a lot of enraged people. Yeah. So there's and thank you again to our Johnny on the Spot production team. So we got off on a tangerine there, but
it happens.
At the end of the day, with all this, to me, this is a lot of wallpaper that the Trudeau jugmeat regime are generating to justify bills like C-11. And my hope is that, please, senators of Canada, justify your existence and don't allow bills like C-11 that are directly attacking our freedom of speech rights to pass. Prove there is a reason for the Senate, much like they stepped up when it came to the Emergencies Act, when Trudeau realized he wasn't going to get Senate approval, and then took his ball and went home like the spoiled child he is. Now, I guess we're more than halfway into the show. Catherine, do we have any super chats?
Let me see.
All right, then. Let's do a little housekeeping, as Dr. Evil would say.
Let's do a couple. So we have one from King7734, $1. Thank you. Beauty and the Beast. Which one's which?
Yes.
You're looking good, David. Okay, well, that answers it. He says, just kidding, but you can't pump up the beautiful girls. Well, you can.
Well,
why does everyone hate beautiful women? There's an attack.
Just 1 second. Do we have an HR director yet? No. Okay. Yeah. Well, she is a beautiful woman. By the way, on that note, I want to give a shout out to Maxim magazine. Paige Sporanic, who is a golf influencer, was named the most beautiful female on the face of the earth, and she is quite beautiful. She's a horrible golfer, which is why she's a golf influencer.
You can't golf with those things in the way. It's just, you don't get the swing right.
I have a story to tell you off air about that. Anyways, why I'm giving a shout out, I mean, it's a classical, beautiful blonde woman. The reason I'm giving Maxim a shout out about this, in this day and age, Catherine, I was almost expecting Maxim to hop aboard the woke wagon.
Put a man on there.
Put a transvestite on there, or to find a woman who is morbidly obese. Listen, I love curvy women, but there is a point in which you get to a weight where you're going to have a shortened lifespan. Not maybe, you will.
Tess Holiday.
Yeah, there you go. And who is unapologetic, for her lifestyle. So a shout out to Maxim for putting an actual, real, biological woman on their cover. And if our little tech hobbits can find an image to put up later, you'll see what I mean. So, by the way, what is your opinion of that? We're seeing this kind of wokism get into the beauty debate. People being put in being accoladed for being a gorgeous woman when they're not, and they're not even female. So, what's your viewpoint of Maxim going old school on
I
this?
like it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good.
I mean, I could be like, well, that woman is more beautiful than me, so I'm offended. It should be someone that looks just like me on the cover of Maxim. But you know what? I have other talents. Not everyone gets to be a swimsuit model on the cover of Maxim, and that's okay.
Indeed. And it's the entitlement too, Catherine. Sheila and I were talking about this last week. There is I can't even remember her name. I'm sorry about that, folks. But it was some influencer, the whole body image thing, and she wanted to go to a ranch, and she did, and she wanted to ride a horse, and the maximum capacity for the horse is 240 pounds. Otherwise, it might suffer a broken back, and she was beyond 250, and there it is, the TikTok star. And so he said no dice, so she went whining and complaining.
Where's PETA when you need them?
You stole the words right out of my mouth, to quote a Meatloaf song. Where is PETA on this issue? But you know what? Sheila, our beloved colleague, Catherine, was monitoring the social media chat, and it was 50-50. It was 50% saying, this is an entitled, selfish person who would do harm to an innocent animal, and the other 50% saying, no, how dare you hurt her feelings? What is it about a certain generation where hurt feelings is almost akin to a capital crime?
Yeah, I don't know. I played sports in high school, and our hockey team was the worst in the league, and I was the goalie. So I know about hurt feelings.
Wow.
Getting 15 goals scored on you. Thank God we didn't have a secondary goalie, because I would have been pulled.
Oh, there you go.
I know about hurt feelings. Like when you're in the real world, hurt feelings are like having a job. Sometimes you do a bad job and your boss has to chastise you, or you don't win whatever sporting thing or whatever it is, and your feelings get hurt, or you get dumped. It's like, that's life. People can't even tolerate it.
I didn't know you were a gumper. That was my position as well. So you don't know that?
No.
Nick? Oh, my goodness, folks. Anyone want to educate Catherine?
I'm assuming it's
where
goalie.
Gumper. Oh, of course it
Okay.
does, yes. But you know what? Let's face it. Goalies are slightly crazy.
They are. And that's why I was a goalie. I didn't have to skate. I loved the attention.
Yes.
Got to wear big pads, and it was fun.
And you get 60 full minutes of ice time.
Yeah.
Unless they pull you, which was frequent in my tenure. Anyway, do we have another?
Yes, we do. So this is from Paul Otto Newman, $5. Thank you. Do you believe that these new revelations of interference by the Trudeau government will finally cause the NDP caucus to wake up and end their agreement with the LPC, Liberal Party of Canada, or will they agree with the results? It's a good question.
Jagmeet Singh has been vicious in his criticism about this recent scandal. That's A. B. No, he will not he will not vote against this government. C. The reason is he needs to rag the puck, to use a hockey term, to 2025 so he gets his full 6 years of service and his juicy pension. That is the only reason that the Jagmeet Singh NDP is propping up this scandal-plagued government. And Catherine, I find it appalling that Jagmeet Singh in the House of Commons or social media will wag his finger and say, how dare you, Justin Trudeau, do this? And then when push comes to shove, when it's a vote, backs up this government.
I mean, he's a politician.
You know what? I'm sorry. I have less respect for Mr. Singh than I do for Mr. Trudeau.
Those are harsh words.
Yeah. He's almost as bad as Patrick Brown. Even.
Yeah. Well, it's easy to criticize when you've never been in power. And
Well,
you likely never will.
No, he won't. And good point, because not only is he not the official opposition, he represents the fourth place party in Canadian Parliament right now.
Sad.
You know, after the Conservatives and the Bloc. And this is a guy holding this country hostage, holding Parliament effectively hostage. And the reason, it's not for stability. It's not for some great Trudeau economic programs to, you know, get us out of this economic quagmire we're in. It's all about Jagmeet Singh having enough do-re-mi to pay his BMW M3 payments and his Armani suits. That is appalling. This is the most selfish person in the House of Commons. Yet, in mainstream media, he will get a pass because to criticize a Sikh, I think, with a lot of journalists that are covering Parliament, that might be construed as racist when it's not.
Of course
and,
not.
And
it's racist to say you can't criticize
Exactly.
someone because of their heritage. That's racist. Like,
That-
they're so fragile, they can't take a little bit of heat. As a politician, as a leader of an official party, that's racist.
You nailed it. The perverse opposite is true. You're being racist by not criticizing him for genuine issues, statements, what have you, that deserve criticism.
It's just like when women are treated with kid gloves and given all these opportunities and all these accolades when they are doing the same job as men. It's like, I find that sexist and insulting.
Well, you know, and that's a good point. I mean, you know, the Catherine McKenna, she hated the term climate Barbie. She
loved it.
No, she hated it.
She loved it, David. I talked to her. There's a video of me interviewing her, and I don't bring it up. I don't mention it. And she's like, she's ignoring my questions, about the millions and millions of dollars that went undocumented during her different infrastructure projects. And she goes, oh, I have a question for you. When are you going to stop calling me climate Barbie?
There
And I
you
was
go.
like, but she brought it up.
Oh,
she
I know.
loves it. Barbie's hot. And it's like, she loves that comparison. And I was like, I had never heard that comparison because I was relatively new at the time. And I was like, what? Like, can you answer my question? Or are you going to bring up the fact that you think you look like Barbie again? Like,
no, she's challenged other Rebel reporters. And the reason why I think it's a valid nickname is going back to when Justin Trudeau was first elected with a majority government. He went out and made sure that there was a 50-50 gender split in cabinet. Now, I'll tell you why that's wrong. It's because you want to appoint
the best person.
on merit.
Yep.
And here's
Again,
and what
sexist.
about this, Catherine? What if there should be, I don't know, 60% women as cabinet ministers because of their merit. So it kind of, in a way, holds back women. So the term climate Barbie is basically a way of saying, are you there based on merit or are you there based on your gender? It's simply put.
Yep. We have another chat from DRB1313, $20. Thank you very much. Is it mandatory for all Rebel employees to have a pal? No. This could be a new employee benefit, possession and acquisition license. No.
But, you know, you did bring it up, Catherine, and I've talked to Sheila, and Sheila's a well-known gun owner, of course, too. As a young lady, what made you decide to get your pal?
Certainly not for self-defense.
No. Okay.
Certainly not. I just think it's important to know the safety around a gun. I would love to know I would like to know how to disarm someone. So, like, I would like to take Krav Maga in the future. But if I was to encounter a gun on the street, I would like to know how it works. Or if I found a gun, and I would like to hunt as well. I think it's important if you're going to eat meat that you should know how to kill an animal and eat it. And maybe, like, there's other ways to kill animals with crossbows and whatnot, but that's not really, it's not easy to do. It's cumbersome. So I think it's just important to know how guns work and the safety around them. Hunting would be my next step. I would like to go skeet shooting.
Oh, okay.
I just want to know how they work and how to use them. I've never fired one, and people are so terrified of them. And I think things that are scary, you should understand.
No, good for you. And of course, being in an urban area, there are police resources to respond in hopefully a timely fashion to any kind of trouble that, God forbid, you might get into. But I know from, we discussed this the other day with Sheila Gunn Reid, she's in a very remote area of northern Alberta. It would take law enforcement on a good day easily over half an hour to get to her home. Can you imagine that there are home invaders kicking in the door and you are waiting a half hour, maybe 45 minutes, maybe over an hour? What are you supposed to do? And this is the insidious thing about the Trudeau gun grab, is that people like Sheila Gunn Reid, they want to take away their way of leveling the playing field if the bad guys ever come calling and the law enforcement is not an option.
Yeah, well, it's all, when I was in my course, we learned very, very simply and clearly, you don't have the right to use your gun to defend yourself. The only way, like if there was a home invader coming to my home and they had a gun pointed at my head, I still wouldn't have the right to use a firearm against that person. The only way is if they were like, I'm going to pull the trigger now, and I would still get arrested and charged. I would have to prove in court that my life was in imminent danger and that the only way I could stop it was by using a firearm. They would say, well, couldn't you have kicked his leg? Couldn't this, there's really no room at all for using a weapon to defend yourself. And that's the scariest thing, because if you were 30 minutes away from police and you have a gun and you use it to defend yourself, you're still going to jail.
It's funny what you say, couldn't you have kicked his leg or something outrageous like that. It reminds me, folks, when I was with Sun News and I was on a panel with a Liberal, Marianne Mead Ward, very nice lady. I like her as a person, but wow. In terms of ideology, we're talking cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. By the way, she has since been elected as mayor of Burlington. It's amazing how people fail upwards in this country. But this very idea of a home invasion example, it was in the news for some reason. I think there was a real life news item about it. And I posed the question. You're a single woman with a child or children. You have home invaders coming into your home. What are you supposed to do? And what she said, Catherine, was, well, you run out the back door and run to safety. And no. When you're in your home, that's the finish line. This is Castle Domain territory now, right? There's no place else to run to,
and
right?
if you live in the middle of nowhere?
Yeah, and who's to say that the bad guys might outrun you?
And what if you have 6 kids?
Yeah.
And infants and elderly people?
I know. It was kind of like Marianne Mead Ward embracing the first rule of Zombieland, which is, of course, cardio. But this is the insane opposition to somebody, a legal gun owner, fearful for his or her life in a home invasion. Even then, what are you supposed to do? Die? We'll have a nice memorial service for you. We'll put teddy bears and bundles of roses next to your front door. Give me a break.
Well, it's the politicians who have armed guards, like we mentioned at the very top of this conversation. They're the ones that are like, you don't need a gun to defend yourself. And it's like, okay, sir, but you have multiple people with guns defending you, Trudeau. Like, and so what does that tell us? His life is more valuable than anyone else's life. Of course, because he's the son of Trudeau and allegedly and
oh yeah, are we getting into Castro?
No, would never even dream of it. Let's do another chat.
Alrighty.
So we have $5 from Fraser. Thank you very much. If you want to curb lawlessness, shooters do this. Ban all shooter games. When I was 14, I bought my first gun, a .22 from Canadian Tire. When I was older, I bought a 12 millimeter 1872 Mauser, I guess, Mauser. 1903. There's a lot of guns here. I'm just going to skip all that. That's good stuff. I brought them home on a bus and nobody blinked an eye. I lived in Montreal. Great show.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Fraser. Yeah, again, I almost caution people not to out themselves as gun owners. You might be putting yourself on some sort of a list, but, it is all about virtue signaling. And, a couple of years in a row, I covered this event. The Toronto Police had a program called Gunplay No way. And what it was, you come down to a police division, and they'd have this outdoor display, and you turn in your gun, and you get, politically correct toy, like a Nerf ball or something like that. Oh, wait a minute, folks. I forgot to mention one teeny tiny detail. You turn in your toy gun, right? They had a blitz for people to turn in toy guns. So that, how in blue hell does that protect the citizens of Toronto from gangbangers that are mugging you, carjacking you, or just going on a random gun spree? Can you possibly make sense of that?
No.
Catherine, getting toy guns off the street?
Aren't they banning airsoft guns?
Yeah, many of them. Yes,
Yeah.
and we did a piece went out to Mississauga Airsoft. This is not harmful at all. But this was just cap guns, or the stuff you'd buy at Dollarama.
Yeah.
Do they still have toy guns at Dollarama? Or
I don't know. They have water guns still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like,
I feel unsafe.
Which the industry now calls water toys. They've taken the gun word.
I remember, I'm old enough to remember on my iPhone emojis. They're these little characters on your phone.
Yes. I know that.
They used to have a gun emoji.
Oh, that's gone.
A handgun. And I used it all the time because it's hilarious. I'd just be like, you better get here quickly. And then I put the gun. I thought it was cute and funny.
That's
but
gone,
they've
right?
removed it, and now you can only use the water gun. And it just doesn't hit. But they still have the knife, though.
It's so. I'm surprised they have the knife, because I was looking for, and maybe I'm not looking in the right place, so I stand to be corrected. I was looking for things like tanks, cannons, military equipment. There are no emojis for that.
No, they have a bomb and a knife.
Oh, they have a bomb?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's like one of those little ball bombs.
One of the worst examples of wokeism I ever saw was a musical artist performing at Yonge Dundas Square in Toronto, and he was doing the Queen classic song Bohemian Rhapsody, and there's the line that says, "Put a gun against his head." He self-censored himself, so it was put a against his head. Right?
Put a what, sir?
I know.
Put a what?
I couldn't believe it. So it's almost like a forbidden word, let alone some kind of implement. Anyways.
All right, more chats.
Yes.
So we have one from Aquaskies 3636, $1. Thank you very much. As a child of the 70s, raised on Get Smart and Bugs Bunny, I love those shows. What happened? Lucky, Libs, NDP need to go. Agree with you, David. Rejag me. Thank you both.
Well, Aquaskies 3636. It's almost like there's a number missing there. 22. Anyways, no, you're quite right. And I have
It took me a second.
We have a viewer in Hamilton, and he's doing me a great service, folks. CHCH, which is the Hamilton TV station, is airing a lot of sitcoms from the 60s and 70s. Get Smart. Just
All in the Family?
Oh, no.
Okay.
That's a good that came up last night in a discussion with one of our viewers. I don't know if All in the Family is being syndicated anywhere in North America. But the point is, we're talking Get Smart, we're talking Gilligan's Island, we're talking My Three Sons, and CHCH goes out of its way to preview, like, Get Smart. Can I get as more innocuous as that, or Gilligan's Island? They view the episode and put trigger warnings, right? So, for example, there was a Gilligan's Island episode where they were worried about cannibalistic headhunting savages attacking them.
And that triggers the cannibalistic headhunting savages.
Yeah, that puts a warning on the episode.
Oy.
Even though, by the way, in the episode, the savages never show up, right? It was just a line of dialogue, So, yeah.
Oh, boy. We're in trouble, David.
Oh, we are in trouble.
We're in trouble.
I mean, I even wonder, am I even ever able to pose the question for the ages, which is this, and I want to get a woman's opinion on this. Ginger or Marianne?
Which one's the hot one?
Well, that's the thing. Hotness is in the eye of the beholder.
Oh, is it like a Betty and Veronica thing?
Exactly.
There's like the girl next door, and then there's the...
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
Marianne's the cute one, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I would go with Marianne.
You
I'm
are
more of a
correct.
Betty girl myself.
9 out of 10 men choose Marianne. Ginger, just way too high maintenance.
Yeah, high maintenance. Yeah. I can relate. We have $1 from Noble Canadian. Thank you very much. If not already done, maybe Kat could make a video of going through the PAL process. And a side note, Catherine, for next Starfleet captain and David as science officer. Yes! Captain! Captain Kat. Thank you. I love that. You can be my science officer.
Okay, make it so.
No, I say that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Quester, I think it's $5, I think. Yes. Or no.
5 libraries.
5 libraries. What is that?
Can anyone do a conversion for us? Because me being bare of little brain, this is beyond my skill set.
Well, it's something, so thank you, Quester.
Yeah.
You can't really defend yourself at all in Canada. My good friend had a drunk neighbor trespass on his property and came at him in a threatening way, and he defended himself. Punched the guy a few times. He got charged and is now facing 1 year house arrest and criminal record. Wow, that's deadly assault with your fists? Non-deadly assault?
Unbelievable.
Jeepers.
And you know what I'm sorry to hear that story. It's grotesque. If someone is trespassing, well, there's the first law being broken right away. But you know, Catherine, the camera never lies, and I'm a proponent. I mean, my vehicle has the dash cam on it.
Smart.
But it's probably a good idea, given how weak our castle domain laws are in this country, to get video surveillance on your property. You know, it's sad that it's come to this, but if that is the truth, that a drunken neighbor with trouble on his shirt trespassed onto his private property, what was he supposed to do?
I don't know.
Unbelievable.
I don't know. And what if that was a woman who wasn't physically capable of punching this guy hard enough to stop him?
Exactly. And this is a story where no firearms were involved.
Yeah, exactly.
Not even a knife
Nope.
was involved. It was just fists. You know, we have to register our hands now, you know? Give me
That's
a break.
sad.
That's a horrible story. I'm going to
Yeah.
be thinking about this all day.
Oh, that's unfortunate. Well, that's all the chats that we have for today.
Okay, well,
Thank
you
you
know,
guys so
I
much.
see that we just only have 2 minutes to go before it's 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. I don't think we have any topics that we can talk about in that amount of time, except another dire statistic, thanks to our federal government. Soaring food inflation has 72% of families with kids worried, as well they should be. And I believe, what was the inflation rate? 7.7% year to year, which is the highest recorded inflation in Canada since, I think it was 1983.
It's just inflation.
Oh, yeah. And again, you know, when it comes to, you know, the Trudeau Liberals, they're immune to this. You know, they get around on private jets.
They all got pay raises, I'm pretty sure, during the pandemic. Well,
Yeah.
Trudeau did.
I thought we were all in this together,
Yeah,
Catherine.
no, that's not true.
Unbelievable.
Not even for a second.
Well, folks, we're going to have to wrap it here. I want to say a thank you to our wonderful producers behind the tinted glass. I see Olivia and Efren.
And Danny.
And Danny. Yes, thank you for reminding me of Danny. Thank you all so much for tuning in. And a special thank you to all those who gave some do-re-mi. That's how we keep the equipment functioning here. We're not like the mainstream media where we do a negative option billing out of your paycheck every 2
Yeah.
weeks like Rogers used to do. And Catherine, thank you for filling in.
Thank you, David.
Really appreciate it. Always a pleasure.
Of course.
I will be back here tomorrow with the lovely and talented Sheila Gunn Reid, our chief reporter. In the meantime, stay sane.
Well, Canada Day is nearly upon us, and that glorious and free country, Canada, well, it's been under attack as of late by politicians like Justin Trudeau, who seem to be completely oblivious to accountability and to Canadian principles. One of the ways we can hold politicians accountable is by having strong, independent media that is willing to ask tough questions and tell the other side of the story. You can show your Canadian pride and support Rebel News by going to rebelnewsstore.com now, grabbing yourself some Canada Day swag and representing Rebel News. Best of all, you can use the code CANADA25 to buy one item and get 25% off your next item. Again, rebelnewsstore.com.